Hi again, everyone. Wonderful to see you in my imagination. Glad you're here, which is there. Hmm. Um, I just have a short one, I think. We'll see. Short one for you. Just to address something that um, comes up a lot. Comes up a lot in spiritual direction when I'm working with people as a spiritual director. It comes up a lot for me as a directee when I'm working with my own teachers. It shows up a lot in spiritual practice, shows up a lot in Zen practice. And so it's something that I've spoken to. It's something you've probably heard other teachers speak to, other um, students, other directors speak to. It's something you've read 100 times. So you can put this in the pile. It's just a reminder. But it's an important reminder. As you've probably figured out, most spiritual teaching is the same thing over and over and over and over and over. We just need that much reminding. We just need so much reminding. That's okay. Right? That's a testament. The need for that much reminding is just a testament for the truth of how difficult it is to wake up as consciousness, to wake up to the truth of being consciousness in a vessel, in a body, in a life. Right? The sensations of that vessel, the sensations of that body, having the additional and profound and dense functioning that we call a self, that we call an ego, takes all of our time, doesn't it? Takes all of our time. It's extremely difficult to wake up to something larger than just what I'm feeling, what I'm needing, what I'm sensing, what I want, what I'm thinking about. To wake up to something bigger than that, of course, it's the work of a lifetime. And so, yeah, it's the same message over and over and over, but we just need that much reminding because it's that pervasive of an experience, you know? So anyway, add it to the pile. What I want to address is that Dharma or spiritual practice. I'm going to use the word Dharma. That's the Buddhist word for the teachings. It kind of implies the practice, and the teachings. But you could replace Dharma with gospel, or you could replace both with yoga, or you could replace all three with just practice. You know, spiritual practice, spiritual practice, spiritual practice. What is the function? What is the reason we do spiritual practice? We do it for awareness. We do it to wake up. That's it. We do it to wake up. We do it to wake up. I'm using that word because in my tradition, the way we use the term wake up is the most akin to, oh, right, I just remembered what I really am. I was asleep and I just remembered what I really am. Consciousness. Awareness itself. That's what I am. Right. So what I hope you can hear in that is, oh, right, the whole point of practice is just to wake up, to wake up, to wake up to what already is. It's already there. It's already taken care of. It's already functioning. It's already accomplished. It's already whole. Oh, right, I just need to remember. Right, I woke up again. I woke up again. What's implied in what's there is what's not there that we add, which is what the reminder today is about. It is not designed to make you comfortable. It's not designed to make you uncomfortable either. It's not there to feel good. It's not there to feel bad. It has nothing to do with either one of those things. I'm saying this because it's so common as to almost be universal. Maybe there are exceptions out there. Maybe there are people who don't do this. But it's so pervasive to think, if I feel better, I'm doing it right. And if I'm not feeling better, I must be doing it wrong. I understand why that's our metric. I understand that's how we normally think of functioning in our life. And up to a certain point, it does make sense. We don't have to get rid of that. We don't have to get rid of it. But we do have to recognize, oh, right, this is the usual metric that I use, right? To locate discomfort and illness in my body. ouch, there's pain, there's constriction, there's something that isn't working quite right. That's how I locate it in my body. That's how I locate it in my emotional life. That's how I locate it in my relationships. That's how I locate it in my mental life. Right? This makes sense. When a need is being met, when something is functioning the way it should be, I feel pretty good. When needs aren't being met, things aren't functioning the way they should be, we usually get a little yellow flag or even a red flag. Zzzt, ouch, something hurts. That's what pain is there to do. Emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain. That's what it's there to do. The check engine light comes on. Something isn't functioning the way it should. Cool. Fine. We don't need to change any of it. We only need to remember in the world of spiritual practice, I am there as awareness, investigating all of the check engine lights. And the goal isn't to have them not come on. I am a spiritual being, and I'm investigating the human experience. And the human experience is check engine lights. The human experience, as well you know, is constant check engine lights. Sometimes very urgent, sometimes very loud, sometimes flashing very brightly, sometimes quiet, sometimes ones you can ignore for another week. But we all know the existence of difficulty, or dukkha in the Buddhist tradition, the first noble truth of Buddhism. Difficulty, struggle, resistance, constriction. Yeah, that's part of the deal. My practice isn't to get rid of that, and therefore the metric of my practice can't be the presence or absence of that. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense the way I just said that. Dharma is not here to make you comfortable. It's here to wake you up. The gospel is not here to make you comfortable. It's here to wake you up. The Upanishads and the Gita and the Quran and the Torah and the Tao Te Ching and all the ceremonies and all the rituals and all the texts, they are not here to make you comfortable. They're not here to make you uncomfortable either. They're just here to express truth. They're here to wake you up. And so how you feel about them is worth investigating. But them feeling bad doesn't mean you're not doing it right. That's the part that I see the most often. That's where I get tricked the most in my own practices. Oh, I feel worse after that meeting with my teacher. I feel worse after reading that sutra, that scripture. I feel worse after my meditation. I felt pretty good going in. And I sat down and I took the posture, I set my timer, I offered my incense, I lit my candle, and a half an hour later when the bell rang and I did my bows, I was sad. What did I do wrong? I'm describing a pretty normal way of thinking. I would expect you would have the same question. What did I do wrong? The presence of sad must mean something is wrong. Can you see the fallacy in that? You have a wise mind. And I bet if Busho came to you and said, you know, I was feeling okay. I set my timer. I took the posture. I did meditation for a half an hour. And at the end, I was sad. My guess is your wise mind would be able to say, it doesn't sound like you did anything wrong. It sounds like you noticed the presence of sadness. My guess is your wise mind might also go a step further and say, perhaps that experience of the weather of sadness, the arising of the conditions of sadness, arose during your sitting. Yeah, perhaps they did. And you noticed it. Or also, perhaps, Busho, the sadness was already present. Maybe it was already present and you hadn't noticed it yet. And your sitting, your meditation gave you enough time sitting still. Your life was able to catch up with you. And it took a half an hour to notice, oh, I have been sad. My guess is your wise mind would have no problem saying the presence of sadness is in no way a failure. You're not doing anything wrong. The fact you noticed it is the practice. I notice the arising of sadness. I notice the changing of sadness. I notice how it moves, and I notice how it leaves. I notice how it comes back. I notice when it leaves. I notice when it ebbs. I notice when it flows. I notice when it's sharp. I notice when it's dull. I notice when it takes up all of my space. And I notice when it's very, very, very quiet, way in the back. Now we're talking about awareness. Same with anger, same with despair, same with frustration, difficulty, constriction, rage, whatever. Can you feel? We've moved into a different place now. This isn't about comfort or pleasantness or happy, the way we normally use the word happy, as being the metric for success or failure. I think all of us know this. It's amazing to me, a lot of folks have resistance, understandable resistance to spiritual practice for the same reason they have understandable resistance to going to see like a therapist, right? I'm scared of what I might learn. You know, if I'm scared to see a therapist, obviously there's something happening already in my life that I'm scared of coming to know. Otherwise, I wouldn't be scared. There's zero reason to be scared of a therapist because we all understand therapists don't create difficulties in our lives. They help us and they encourage us to explore difficulties that are already there, right? Suffering is already present. And they give you tools and they give you terms and they give you exercises and they give you techniques. And more than anything else, they give you a loving presence, I hope, at least an empathic presence to go with you into some of those places. Oh, you're scared. Yeah, we're all scared. Oh, I wish my relationship with so-and-so was different. Yeah, we all wish that. Let's look at yours, right? So my resistance toward meditation, my resistance toward the wall that we face when we sit in Zen, my resistance toward the chair in the therapist's office, they're all manifestations of the same thing. There's something already there. I'm just scared to look at it because I'm going to have a feeling. I'm going to come to know something, and my life is going to have to include that. I already know it's not here to make me comfortable. It's here to wake me up. If the time spent in the therapist's office is what it takes for me to realize, oh my God, that's why I've had a grudge against so-and-so. That's the thing I've been scared of saying. That's why my husband and I never talk about blah, 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 blah. Whatever the example is in your life, you've just been given awareness. You now have a perspective. You now have an ability because you have awareness to do something differently, to have that conversation or to make a decision that might be different. You have the agency and also the responsibility that comes with awareness itself. We're not describing comfort. We're also not describing discomfort because some of the C's are huge reliefs. Huge relief. Oh, I see it. Oh my God, what I see. I've been carrying that idea all this time. Letting go of that, putting that belief down. Oh, what a relief, right? So, Dharma isn't about comfort. I'm going to explore this just a little bit further. Dharma practice, spiritual practice, it's not productive. Just please, doing it doesn't make you busy. Couldn't. Not busy. It's not productive. Now, I know that those words are ego fuel, and we love those words. We love them. Been busy? Oh, yes, I've been busy. Ooh, feels good even to say it, isn't it? I've been busy. Even if that comes with stress, which it usually does, or at least we imagine it does. I love the worth and the value that I get, that I imagine, that I get from being busy. Busy people are valuable, and very valuable people are very busy people. Oh, so productive. Such a productive day. Oh, you can feel it? Can you feel the part of you that feels good? That's fine. Notice it. It's not a problem. But please don't put your meditation practice, Zazen, scripture study, whatever it is you put under the category of spiritual practice in your life, whatever it is, however it is you divide that up, whatever you put in the spiritual practice category, please don't associate that, and I know you will, it's just a question of noticing, it's what we all do, as, oh, those are productive, that's productive, that's productive, because now you can feel the part of you that's operative. I am good because the time spent on the cushion was good because it was productive, and I was busy doing meditation, and therefore This is why, and the reason I'm telling you, I'm encouraging you not to do that, is because that's when we get to, oh, that should feel like the rest of the things that give me positive strokes. They feel comfortable. I get things out of them. What did you get out of your meditation? Well, right back into the place that fuels us most of the time. Instead, remember your wise mind, the wise mind you were touching a few minutes ago when you had the imaginary conversation with me. And I said, hey, I felt really sad by the end of my meditation. What did I do wrong? You knew you didn't do anything wrong. You just became aware that there was sadness present in you. That's a good thing. The awareness is a good thing. I'm sorry you're sad. What do you think that might be about? When you put yourself back into that place, you understand why I just said meditation isn't about being productive or busy. It's just about seeing it. Oh, I see it. That's why I do that. And so even the categories that I mentioned 2 minutes ago of you have a spiritual life and you have a human life, those categories start to dissolve. Please expect them to. If you do practice long enough, there isn't a distinction anymore. There isn't anyway. But you just come to see that there never was a distinction between your human life and your spiritual life. That was a completely false separation. Completely false. Why am I giving you this talk? I'm giving you this talk because what I see is the suffering that comes from the idea that progress is supposed to be good. Because people quit when it doesn't feel good. And they stop. And then they don't see anymore. And then they don't wake up. Because waking up can take a million different forms. And I can have a million different feelings attached to it. Sometimes it's joyous. Sometimes it's a relief. Sometimes it's no big deal. Sometimes it's pretty miserable. Some of us in our lives have said profound sentences that were extraordinarily uncomfortable to say in the moment. And we realize that was one of the most important things I ever said. And it was the furthest thing from comfortable. But it was true and it was loving. Right? And all of us know what those kinds of questions can sound like. I want a divorce. I am an alcoholic. I have to quit my job. My country is dying. It's time to put Bowser down. I don't know what that example looks like in your life. You can probably think of many. But those are moments of clarity and compassion and correctness, truth. That's the functioning of enlightenment in the field of space and time. And if I avoided that because it wasn't comfortable or didn't make me happy, if I avoided that because it raised my heart rate, made me anxious, made me grieve, I would never have come to that place. And what I see more often than anything else is people going, I haven't felt good in a long time about my practice. And so because the feeling good is the metric, they quit. If practice continually shows them, as it should over and over and over, here's the constriction, here's the place you're scared to go, here's the conversation you don't want to have, here's the diagnoses you don't want to name. If that's what it's really there to do, we certainly can have a lot of understanding, a lot of empathy, even compassion maybe, for our resistance. But we're not liable to quit because we're not asking it to make us comfortable. Right? If a hot tub is a hot tub and I get in it and it's not hot, something's wrong at the hot tub and I get out. That's its job. It's right there in the name. Right? It's not functioning the way it should be. I should get out. It's a broken hot tub. Spiritual practice is remembering we're spirit, consciousness, awareness, enlightenment, Buddha, whatever your word is. That's what we are. We're the lifing of things. The animating principle itself, consciousness. Spiritual practice. What it's designed to do is to show us the pockets in the experience of the human vessel that we occupy, the constrictions and the fears and the joys and the movements and the weather and the arising and the passing and the changing. That's its job. That's what we're there to do. A completely different metric. So comfort is not success. And that's really important for us. That goes again against the ego idea. We have a collective ego idea where it's almost never expressed in this specific a way, but we have a very, very, very tenacious ego idea that if you live your life correctly, in other words, good, that you will be more comfortable. You will be comfortable and healthy, and your friends and loved ones will be comfortable and healthy, and that's success. Now, it doesn't hold up. If we look at that carefully, it doesn't hold up for even 30 seconds as a truth, but we believe it and we operate it from it. And so what I'm describing to you is we think that happiness is there for an achievement and that we got to it because we earned it because we were good. Which also means if we're sick or we're sad or people in our lives are suffering, including us, that we must be not good. We must be bad. Maybe I'm a failure. So when I have a cold, I not only have the physical discomfort, the pain of having a cold virus, likely, if I'm a Homo sapiens, I have an additional, usually unconscious belief operative. You could have avoided this and you didn't. So it's your fault. So now you have a virus, and also it means something about you. It means something about you. You weren't good enough taking care of yourself. Obviously, you skipped your daily nectarine, your daily vitamin C, your walk, your exercise, your something. Can you feel it? This is how we blame ourselves for our lack of happiness. We blame ourselves for a lack of health. We blame ourselves for getting old. Not only is the body I'm occupying getting older, I'm ashamed of it. As well I should be. It's my fault. I'm not sure how, but I am ashamed of it. Tell me you don't have shame about your age. You do. Of course you do. We all do. Why? Makes no sense. Nope. But it's there. Happiness, health, youth, strength, vibrancy, all those things are associated with good. Therefore, their opposites are associated with bad. Do you get why it's such a pervasive idea in spiritual circles? Oh man, meditation feels so good. I've never felt more grounded. That's wonderful. Good for you. I love it when the weather shows up that way. It doesn't mean anything about you. Maybe there's a whole bunch of stuff going on under the surface you're not aware of. Suddenly, the thing that I thought was good practice is not good practice. Everything gets flipped on its head here. I would much rather be meeting with somebody who says, I have so many things to share because there are so many ways in which I saw myself constrict. I saw myself get angry. I saw myself become short-tempered. I could see how my childhood trauma showed up. I could see my grief. I could see my selfishness. They're just talking about their human container. It doesn't mean anything about them. But they're very, very curious about it because they are spirit beings. They are spiritual beings, and they're fascinated by their human experience. They're learning to understand their human experience. They're learning to be compassionate toward their human experience. They're starting to fall in love with their human experience. They're starting to fall in love with their human experience. That's the point. Become aware. Awareness is love. Wow, can you see it? How all this starts to flip after a while. I'm not productive anymore. That's not why I sit. I don't sit to be busy. I don't sit to be good. I don't sit to achieve. I don't sit to feel differently than I do. I just sit to become more aware. That's why I meet with my teacher. That's why I do the bows. That's why I light the candle. That's why I do everything that we do. That's what we do, right? So I'm going to end with a story. A lot of you who know stories, especially anecdotal stories about the Katagiri lineage, have heard this story. This is my version of it. I'm probably going to get it wrong. It's written in some of the books about Katagiri Roshi's teaching. Katagiri is the Zen priest, the monk who started the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center, where I did my formal training. And so he's a really big figure in the Zen of the Midwest, Minnesota especially, Twin Cities especially. So we hear lots and lots and lots of these stories. So just like with the telephone game, this is the version that's coming to me today without referring to anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just a story. But it's an important one because it was very puzzling to me for a very long time for exactly the reason that we're talking about today. So I'll finish with this. The way I remember the story was Katagiri Roshi was meeting with a student of his. We can make the assumption, and I think it's helpful, to make the assumption, if it's a Dharma story, it's going to be about helpfulness. That's the whole point, is we're gonna make the assumption that upaya is happening. Skillful means are happening. Upaya is skillful means. That means it was the right teaching for the right student at the right time. Right? That's why it's useful to us. Right? So we don't know all the details, but they become unnecessary. So the assumption I'm making is Katagiri Roshi must know this student pretty well, must know him pretty intimately, and must know this person's patterns in order for this to be an effective Dharma teaching. Right? Because the same Dharma teaching can be wildly skillful in this situation and wildly unskillful in this situation. The very same teaching can be really, really appropriate here and really, really inappropriate here. Right? We all understand that. Right? There is no Santa Claus. Pretty helpful to tell a 30-year-old, pretty not helpful to tell a 2-year-old. Right? So the story goes, the student is meeting with the teacher. The teacher's Katagiri Roshi. Hey, Roshi, my wife and I were fighting again on Tuesday, and right in the middle of the fight, I said, nope, we're done. I'm going to stop. And I went to my room, and I took out my Zafu, and I did 40 minutes of Zazen. When I came back, I felt much better. Pretty good story, right? I mean, before we go any further, I want you to hear the part of you that goes, well, yeah, that sounds right. Wow, I was fighting with my wife. Things were getting kind of gnarly. I'm going to step outside of this. I'm going to go down to the end of the hall, and for 40 minutes, I'm going to sit and face the wall. I'm going to do a thing called Zazen, a thing called meditation. When I come back, I feel better. Right? That means we can probably guess what the teacher's going to say in response to that story. Right? He probably knows. I bet you I know why this student is offering this story to me. I bet you that's why he's filling me in and giving me this update. And I bet I know what he wants me to say. I bet I know what he wants to hear. Right? We're all on the same page before we go further. Yeah, we can understand that part of ourselves too, right? Okay. So, did my 40 minutes of Zazen. I came back, I felt much better. What do you think? Katagiri said, in fact, the way I remember being told is Katagiri growled, don't use Zazen that way. End of story. The opposite of what we probably expect the Zen master, the Zen teacher to say. Probably the opposite. We're probably expecting praise. We're probably expecting affirmation. Perhaps the student, again, these are at this point fictional characters because it doesn't matter. Probably we can imagine that the student really did want to hear that. Wow, well done. Good for you. What a good Zen student. Oh, right in the middle of a conflict, you stopped the conflict and you went and did spiritual practice. Well done, you. Right? And instead, he got exactly the opposite. He got an admonition, don't use your practice that way. And the growling adds, whether that happened or not, adds an intensity that's actually a really important part because the growling is love. Here, the growling, the presence of anger, that's not personal anger on behalf of the teacher. That's anger in the face of something that is fundamentally not loving. Nope, that was not the right thing to do. So, as I said, we can presuppose a lot of familiarity between these characters. We can imagine why the teacher might have given that instruction. So, for the sake of our conversation today, because there's a whole bunch of other places we could go with that story, I think it's actually a beautiful contemporary koan to feel our way into, because we can imagine another teacher giving the exact opposite feedback to a different student on another day. Hey, well done. Well, good for you, depending on where they were, their stage of practice, their stage of development, what their relationship was like with their spouse, right? In this case, and to go along with the point I'm making, you felt much better. Good for you. Whose need was that about? What message did your wife get? What happened to the conflict? What happened to the feelings? What happened to the very, very, very human conversation that was happening in that, I'm imagining, kitchen where you're fighting? What did you try to get away from? Can you feel those questions? I'm guessing we're getting closer. Katagiri Roshi might have been angry there. You just use spiritual practice to get away from your human experience. You just use spiritual practice as a defense against your human experience. You just use spiritual practice as an escape, an abandonment of your human experience. I know there are other possibilities, there are other interpretations. I'm just talking about it just this one way. But I'm talking about it just this one way because this is the one I see the most often. Because then not arguing with the spouse becomes the metric for spiritual success. I used it to stop a conflict instead of, I used it to understand my practice more deeply, why I was so angry, why I felt so scared, why I felt so hurt, to understand where that came from and why it was coming out of my mouth the way it was. I realized this conversation I was having with my wife was part of a pattern I've had my whole life, an abiding fear I've had my whole life, an anger that's connected to early who knows what. But can you feel all of a sudden karma comes up? There's a whole investigation of a human life that's needing to happen, not just I leave when it gets hot. And so instead of, wow, you did a good job because you made yourself feel better, he got a whack. And the whack was, don't leave your life. You were angry. You were sad. You were ashamed. You were hurt. You were scared. You were all of those things. Tell me about how you fell in love with the person who felt that way. And then tell me about how you fell in love with the other person in the same room at the same time who also felt all of those ways. Wow, that's a completely different story now. Roshi, I can see how my years of Zazen practice helped me understand why I got so angry and what she represented to me in that moment. I understood the feeling that was underneath the feeling. And then I understood the feeling that was underneath the feeling that was underneath the feeling. I could hear the narratives of the ego self. I could see the core beliefs show up. I could feel in my body the memories of unmet need. All of the karma came up. I could understand it. I could figure it out. The person standing in the kitchen opposite me isn't my enemy. Oh, and I had understood that she was. Do you see what I'm describing right now? Is insight, clarity. I'm waking up. Oh my God, I thought you were my enemy. I thought maybe winning the argument would mean something about me. I thought maybe you were threatening my functioning as a person. I thought maybe you were threatening my safety. I thought maybe you were threatening to leave me. I thought, I saw it, I saw it, I saw it, I saw it, I saw it. I felt it, I felt it, I felt it, I felt it, I felt it. That's awakeness. All of it happened. Ego functioning, all of it showed up. And because of my many years of Zazen, Roshi, I saw it. I got it, and it changed the way that conversation went. Yeah. Can you feel what we're describing there? A marriage. Perhaps a saved marriage between two human beings, but I'm talking about an inner marriage of, oh, my ego showed up, and I wasn't measuring my success by its absence. I was measuring my success by my insight into what it was, what this thing was. I was measuring my success by my connection to it, how deeply I felt it, how thoroughly I saw it. There's so much more grace there. Can you feel that? There's so much more grace there. There's forgiveness there, self-forgiveness, if we want to use that word, self-compassion, if we want to use that word. Oh, I never had to leave. So in this story, Zazen, our practice, is the kitchen. That's where stuff happens. That's where human life happens. It's an affirmation of that experience. It's an investigation of that experience. That's part of the divine unfolding, the whole human drama. So there's an embrace. And do you feel that what I'm offering to you, what I'm challenging you with is stop using comfort as the metric. Stop even wanting to look for that. That's not what it's here to do. Notice the part of you that insists on going to the cushion that way. Okay, just notice that part. If we can't stop seeking comfort, then at least notice the part that wants comfort and go, oh, you must be uncomfortable or else you wouldn't be looking for comfort. Why don't you tell me what's wrong? Now I'm talking about spiritual practice. Instead of, oh, I sat 100 consecutive days, my mind never wandered. I called my mother-in-law and she yelled at me And I didn't get angry. I didn't feel anything. I've achieved something, right? Please investigate this in your own practice. Investigate this for yourself. Investigate this for yourself. Because what we're trying to do here is take ourselves off the hook. Meaning, oh, it's still hard. Yeah, it's okay. You're off the hook. Still hard is fine. Still hard is fine. We're trying to take ourselves off the hook for it's still hard and I'm still seeing things and I'm still not seeing so much. Correct. That will always be the case. Isn't that nice? When we change the metric, suddenly Dogen starts making sense to us. The path is a circle. Every step is the last, every step is the first. It's okay. Just see what's in front of you. That's it. That's it. What if it's not comfortable? That's it. It's okay. That's what I'm trying to do. Remind us all. We're off the hook. All right. I hope this has helped you. It's wonderful to offer these little things. And I appreciate you being here and finding in yourself whatever rises up to respond to what I offer. That's beautiful. That's your practice. Thank you. See you next time. All right. Bye-bye.